The sun was barely cresting over the pines when I saw the flashing lights in my rearview mirror. Red and blue bouncing off the black top like a full-blown traffic stop. Only I knew every sheriff's cruiser in this county, and the SUV tailing me wasn't one of them. Before we dive in, comment which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. I eased my pickup onto the shoulder. Tires crunching gravel. For a moment, I wondered if maybe it was a new deputy I hadn't met yet. But the second those doors swung open, my gut told me the truth. Two men climbed out wearing tactical vests stamped in blocky white letters. HOA cop. They strutted toward me like they just rolled off a reality TV cop show. One was tall, lean, with a shaved head and mirrored sunglasses. The other heavier, with a clipboard tucked under one arm. Neither had a badge that looked remotely official, but they carried themselves like they owned the road. The tall one rapped his knuckles on my window. License and registration. Step out of the vehicle. I raised an eyebrow. On what grounds? You're in violation of multiple HOA ordinances, he said flatly. This is an official compliance stop, I almost laughed. On the highway? Correct. The heavy one chimed in, glancing at his clipboard. Article 7, subsection B. Vehicles belonging to residents must conform to community appearance standards at all times. Your truck has unauthorized accessories. I stared at them. You pulled me over because of my toolbox and mud tires. Non-compliance is a serious matter, the tall one said, puffing his chest. Failure to cooperate will result in escalation. Before I could answer, a white Lexus rolled up behind them. Out stepped Linda Marsh, our HOA president. Perfect hair, pearls at her neck, and a smug smile plastered across her face. She held a clipboard like it was a sword. Good morning, she said sweetly. We've had multiple complaints about your vehicle, sir. These officers are here under my authority to ensure compliance. I bit back a chuckle. Linda, you do realize this is a public highway, right? Your authority ends at the neighborhood entrance. She narrowed her eyes. Our jurisdiction extends wherever our residents go. Your non-compliant truck reflects poorly on the community. It's an embarrassment. The clipboard guy nodded like she just quoted the Constitution. We'll need you to exit the vehicle. Non-compliance may result in impound. That's when I knew they weren't just bluffing. They were trying to strong-arm me into handing over my truck. I kept my hands on the wheel, calm as a stone. So let me get this straight, I said slowly. Two fake cops in vests that say HOA cop, backed by a president who thinks her rules extend past her own mailbox, are trying to arrest me over a pickup truck. The tall one scowled. Laugh all you want, sir. This is happening. Step out now or it'll get worse. I leaned back in my seat, letting their nonsense wash over me. They thought they had me cornered, but they had no idea who they were dealing with. And I was just getting started. The tall one wasn't bluffing. He slapped his palm on my window hard enough to rattle the glass. Last chance, he barked. Step out of the vehicle. Linda folded her arms, smug as ever. We've already documented your violations. This will go on record with the association. Cooperating now will make it easier for you later. I exhaled slowly. Funny thing about records, I said. Some of us actually know how to keep the legal kind. The clipboard guy leaned in, his polyester vest brushing against my door. Don't play games. We're authorized to use force if necessary. That's when I smiled. Calm, cold, dangerous. Because while they thought I was just another homeowner, they didn't realize who they just picked a fight with. I reached down casually, pressing a small button on my belt radio. A silent signal went out, the kind only real deputies carry. Within seconds, the cavalry would be coming, but I wasn't about to sit and wait. I pushed the door open, forcing the clipboard guy to stumble back. I stepped out slowly, boots crunching gravel, arms crossed over my chest. You boys sure you want to go through with this? I asked evenly. The tall one squared up, fumbling for a pair of knockoff handcuffs dangling from his belt. Turn around, hands behind your back now. Before I could even answer, a sound cut through the morning air, the wail of sirens growing louder every second. The fake cops froze, their bravado cracking for the first time. Linda's smug smile faltered just a hair. Two sheriff's cruisers roared up, lights blazing, dust swirling around us as they skidded to a stop. My deputies stepped out, hands resting casually on their duty belts. Boss, Deputy Morales said, eyes flicking from me to the two imposters. Want to explain why these clowns have you pulled over on the side of the highway? I tilted my head toward the pair. They call themselves HOA cops. Claimed they were arresting me for a mailbox violation. Said my truck was embarrassing the neighborhood. Morales raised an eyebrow, fighting a smirk. On a state highway, the clipboard guy sputtered. We were enforcing community standards. The tall one jabbed a finger at me. He refused a lawful order. That's obstruction. Morales didn't even hide his laugh. Lawful order, buddy? You're wearing a vest you bought off the internet. That's impersonating law enforcement. Linda tried to step in. Clipboard clutched to her chest. This is a misunderstanding. They're authorized by the HOA board. Ma'am, Morales cut her off, voice sharp. The HOA has no jurisdiction outside its own lots, and it sure as hell doesn't get to run traffic stops. If you're enjoying this HOA story so far, like and subscribe because the story is only going to get better. The two fake cops looked at each other, their confidence evaporating. The handcuffs that once dangled like weapons now looked more like cheap toys. I stepped closer, staring them down. You thought you could strong-arm me, but you picked the wrong man. You tried to impersonate the law while the real sheriff was behind the wheel. The cruiser's lights bathed them in red and blue, a fitting preview of where they'd be heading next. And for the first time that morning, Linda's smug grin disappeared completely. The flashing lights were still bouncing off the highway when Morales pulled the fake badge from the tall man's vest and held it up to the sun. This, he said flatly, wouldn't pass for a Halloween prop, the impostor stammered. We were authorized the HOA. Save it. Morales snapped. You're under arrest for impersonating law enforcement, unlawful detention, and attempted coercion. He clicked real cuffs on the man's wrists while the clipboard guy shrank back, his face pale. Linda screeched. You can't do this. The HOA backs them fully. I turned to her, calm as ever. Linda, the HOA doesn't outrank state law, and since your name's all over those clipboards and complaint letters, you'll be facing charges too. Harassment, attempted fraud, and conspiracy. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping on a dock. For the first time, she had no script, no smug comebacks. Within minutes, both fake cops were stuffed in the back of real cruisers, their polyester vests crumpled in evidence bags. Linda was cited on the spot, her precious clipboard confiscated. But it didn't end there. The prosecutor's office moved fast once Morales and I handed over the evidence. Dozens of neighbors came forward with stories, threats of fake compliance centers, fraudulent fines, even intimidation tactics. What started as my traffic stop turned into a full-blown investigation. 2 weeks later, I sat in the front row of the county courthouse, arms crossed, while the charges were read out loud. Fraud, attempted unlawful restraint, conspiracy. The tall man's face was beet red. The clipboard guy hung his head, sweat dripping onto the table. Linda sat rigid, clutching her purse like it could protect her. The judge didn't flinch. Baifs, take them into custody. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. A few of my neighbors clapped quietly. For months they'd been bullied by fake tickets, threats, and HOA intimidation. Today, the law had finally turned the tables. By the end of the week, both fake cops were sentenced to county time and ordered to pay restitution. Linda was stripped of her position as HOA president, fined heavily, and hit with a no-contact order against multiple homeowners, myself included. The board voted unanimously to dissolve her enforcement program, leaving her reputation in ashes. As I walked out of the courthouse, the same neighbors who'd once whispered complaints now smiled openly. One shook my hand, another patted me on the back. Sheriff, one older man said with relief in his voice, feels like we finally got our neighborhood back. I gave a small nod. No one is above the law. Not fake cops, not power-hungry presidents. Justice doesn't play dress-up. The HOA's fraud exposed the fakes behind bars, and the neighborhood finally free from their grip.